Hello and welcome to the 19th NFT Guild Roundtable. It's March 29th. We've got cool people here to have a chat. This event will mark the first installment of our new initiative of NFT Guild Roundtables called Building on Cardano. This event is aimed to sharing the experiences and lessons learned from standout projects in the Cardano NFT space, particularly those building ecosystem tools and services. So yeah, today we have Ada Anvil, we got Cash, David, and Patrick here, and all to share their experience, and a bunch of AIs in the call. We were commenting on that before that we started the recording. This is the reality now. We live amongst bots, and we converse amongst bots, and they help us help us do stuff. Very cool. Anyway, yeah, Cash, you want to introduce yourself and let's get going.
Sure. No, thank you guys for having me. My name's Cash, aka Zach now, because Cash is used more frequently. So we'll go with Cash. I'm the CEO of Ada Anvil, accompanied by my CTO, David, and my COO, Patrick. We're really happy to be here. Like I said, just a brief intro for me. I started in the NFT space and Cardano space about 2.5 years ago now, which is kind of wild to say. It feels like it's been 10 years and also 10 minutes. So I don't really know how to put that into words, but it's been an amazing experience. I started as a collector and a consumer, and evolved my way into, more significant roles as I advanced, project leader, project founder, community managers, things like that. And then, obviously we founded Anvil, which is our baby. It's currently a year old. We started it in March of last year. So this is a pretty cool anniversary show for us. We get to talk about everything that we've kind of done over the last year, which is cool, and some of the things that we're going to do in the future. So I'm really looking forward to it. You're muted.
Yeah, thanks, man. I want to have an intro from Patrick and David as well. Just yeah, who you are, how you started out here.
I'm happy to hop in. You guys hear me? Is my mic on?
Yep.
We good? Cool.
All good.
Yeah, I'm PB, also known as Patrick. Been in the space for about 2 years now. It's crazy how fast it goes, like Cash said. My background is in Web2, direct-to-consumer businesses, building out kind of the P&L and operating structure for CPG brands. So it has been just an absolute joy to kind of take those learnings from the past, 12, 13 years of my career and begin to apply those to something where, kind of history meets passion, where you've got this emergent technology, you've got these use cases that are evolving, you've got this hyper-paced environment, which is, something that I love and not everybody in the business side of things does, especially when you're building out, forecasting P&Ls, all these different components to actually run a business and brand effectively. And we get this opportunity here to do it at light speed, make decisions and change direction every single day. And not necessarily from a brand direction, but just from the space changes. CIPs come out all the time. You have to adapt, you have to evolve, you have to be nimble, you have to be light on your feet. So it's been just such a treat to be able to apply that kind of past experience to something that is so bleeding edge, so fun, so fast, where people are truly involved and passionate about it. And a lot of the people, I'd say, especially even on this call, are here because we love it. And that is such a cool thing to me, like having that. And I get up excited every single day to hop on my first call with Cash and Jeremy and David and all these guys. Like, it's just a treat. So, I'm stoked to be here. Thrilled to be listening in today and on the call. So excited to see what comes from this.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. P&L, brand management, all that stuff. Very awesome. Complete career that I haven't even met anyone associated with in this space before. So very, very cool. David, I don't know if you're still here, but love to little intro for you, man.
Yeah, sorry, I'm at the office right now, so there might be some sound around me. But I've been learning Cardano over the last 1.5 years already, I think. So yeah, I'm working with the team on all the tools we're trying to deliver to Cardano right now: staking, marketplace, minting. That was our first product we released already, like 1 year ago already, and that's pretty it. Thank you.
He's being modest. He's in the lion's den right now. He's with all the killers that we have that work in the background. So it's a perfect segue if you don't mind. We basically, we crafted this team based on our experiences in Web3, but most of our team has a very rich Web2 background in terms of website development and SaaS-based business, right? Models. So what we have in the background that people don't really get to see every day is we actually have a designer, we have 2 front-end specialists, we have another infrastructure specialist, and then we have 2 other employees that we use for day-to-day dev activities. So we have a pretty robust team that not a lot of people get to see because it doesn't really matter that much, right? It's what do we do that's forward-facing that the customer sees, and how do we execute on it? So, for us, we're really blessed to have this infrastructure before we even started. And I think that was a huge factor in our success early on, was that we had these people to rely on, that we could fall back on when things went south, or, when we were just in a bad bind, right? Or too busy or over, booked. So essentially Anvil started a year ago. Like I said, we all got together, David and Jeremy, the blacksmith, who's not here right now. They went ahead and just made a minting engine, right? They said, we'll put in the sweat equity. Here's the minting engine. We're really excited to get started on Cardano. And thus Anvil was formed, right? So since then, we've done over 150 projects and we've minted over 400,000 NFTs on Cardano. We've been responsible for over, I think, 25 staking clients now. So we've built 25 staking platforms, all individually branded towards the customer, as well as the minting portals too. And then we're currently working on is our marketplace. And we're really trying to focus on our CMS tool so that people can build all the things that we're talking about on their own, right? On their own accord, with their own, it basically, it puts the power in the hands of the client rather than having to rely on a third party as a middleman or somebody to guide you through the process.
Cash, you mentioned in the beginning that first you entered the space as a collector and then you gradually evolved through the projects. What from that experience led you to believe there's a need to start a new minting service, and what informed you from those early days after you started building?
That's a great question. Really good question. So essentially, when I started my first project, it was Benjamin's Club and Benjamin's Group, right? And the primary goal of these 2 projects were bringing awareness to Cardano, right? We wanted to migrate users from Ethereum and other blockchains to Cardano. So we started, a launch pad, all these different things, right? Well, you quickly realize how complicated development is when you're trying to do a lot at once, right? So when we first started that, it was nearly impossible to find a developer, period, right? We got very lucky in the fact that FenceMaker took a liking to our project. So we ended up, Fence was our dev for 3 months, 4 months, and he was responsible for all of our early projects. The thing is once you reach a certain point, you can't just rely on one person anymore. It became too cumbersome for him, and he had other things that he was working on that he couldn't commit to full time. Even if he had, it's too much work for one person, right? You need a whole team, a whole management structure. And not only that, to answer your question, we saw a huge need in the space for the developers, right? It's not fair that I have to go through all these hoops to find a fence maker, right? So our plan was to make everything really simple for the client, because when we had it, we didn't have that luxury, right? So we built Anvil based on that premise, where we're a team where you can come to us and have no idea what you're doing, and you can basically start from scratch with us, and we'll help you build every step of the way. you know, I've literally gone as far as like being part of the auditing process of the project's art, right? So I mean, we really go from front to back. That's our whole selling point. You know, we're very hands-on. We really like to work with smaller projects to kind of get them the exposure that they need. You know, we have a humble beginning too, so we try not to forget where we came from. But all in all, Anvil was built to fill the need of a lack of development, which now, you know, you're starting to see the trend where we are actually getting developers, which is great, right? Like that's what we set out to do. There's now competition, right? The minting space is very competitive from a service provider standpoint, right? You know, staking, there's starting to be more and more platforms built. You're seeing the marketplaces too. So this is like when we started our company, that was what we set out to do. And you know, it's really cool to see how the space has evolved over just that year. You know, it's literally came from something where you couldn't find anybody to do anything to now it's so competitive that people are changing their prices every day just to stay relevant, right? So it's really cool to see the transformation. And you know, I'm really happy from how far we came just from that one need, right? Like it branched into all these crazy things that we had no idea. And PB spoke to that, right? Like part of what we've dealt with is adversity and the need to adapt to what the current market conditions are. And that's been one of the most fun and exciting things of anything, right? And I think it's something that'll continue to always be relevant. So we'll always continue to have a place here.
And from a developer perspective, maybe David can jump in a bit. How is the tooling on Cardano evolved since you started over the year and a half that you've been active, and what are the lessons you've learned? And maybe for current developers looking at Cardano or future developers interested maybe in Cardano, how has the space gotten harder or easier to develop in?
The main update for sure was Vasil with all the reference inputs and the inline datum that changed the whole game. That's for sure. But that's not really helping, I think, new developers to come to Cardano. But all the libraries and all that stuff really are becoming more and more up to date every day. Even last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, I was like doing some jokes with one of our partner in Anvil, and I asked him to make a transaction in JavaScript, and he's been able to make the transaction in about 1 hour, I think. And he's not a dev; he has no knowledge in JavaScript. So he took Lucid, the library from Alessandro Lucid, and he was able to create a transaction in just 1 hour. I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. From what I was trying to do at the beginning, it was really hard. And so all the tools and stuff like that are getting really good. Blockfrost did some amazing progress too. Recently, they released the webhook, so you can receive data rather than poking them to see if there's a new block, a new transaction on chain, which is all amazing stuff right now.
Yeah, it sounds good, sounds cool. I mean, it's good to see the space improve, and hopefully the word will get out that it's much easier to develop on Cardano, because from what we've seen, there's still some reticence about that. Developers are still kind of shy to to adopt Cardano out of fear of complexity, or I don't know, Haskell making their brain hurt or something. That's the meme we've seen doing the rounds, but yeah, hopefully that won't be the case. Maybe you can tell us how has your experience in traditional Web 2.0 converted over to the Web3 space. how does the customer maybe react differently in this space than in the traditional web business side of things that you told us you have experience in?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is actually relevant to a call that we were discussing earlier around pricing in the space and kind of the status quo as to where things are. And, I think that there are an unbelievable amount of similarities. So looking at that first, consumer behavior is consumer behavior, right? It's somewhat, I don't want to say predictable, but it's measurable. And there are elements of consumer behavior like price, in some of the world I came from, taste or touch or feel, that are these purchase considerations that are, kind of supersede anything else. So I'd say that, when you're looking at this space, you see a lot of that same behavior, even on secondary markets, within mints, all of these different components, where I think that it's a extraordinarily elastic marketplace, and people are driven by price and then community and what they feel are going to be factors in either their resale or their long-term hold. I mean, that's extraordinarily similar to if I were to go on and purchase a new sweatshirt from some clothing shop. Do I want it to be soft and organic cotton? Do I not care about those components? Like this type of behavior, we see that across anything. It's just part of our nature and how we consume. I mean, my consumption mindset may be different than your consumption mindset, may be different than Cash's. I'm looking for quality and then price and then performance, and Cash may be looking for visuals followed by price, but these components are always going to be up there. I think historically there's something like 7 considerations before making a purchase. So that to me is something that is so applicable, because we can look at the data and we can understand. I'm actually, again, as an output from this morning, looking at data to get an understanding as to if we do this with, say, one of our mints, what happens to whether our top line, our bottom line, the various different means in which we're collecting revenue across projects. So that part of it is pretty similar. And the other components that we handle, like UI, UX, these different types of flows within a given environment, I think that that's pretty applicable to here. We're working on creating a cart and a checkout as opposed to call it, a minting site. It's much more akin to like a Shopify process. The reason we've gone that direction, Shopify or Amazon-esque, is it's familiar. And that's what's going to get people involved, like new folks in and understanding it more quickly, is creating something that feels normal, that doesn't necessarily feel like you're in this foreign environment of connecting wallets and doing, it's an app, and you connect your payment method to the app and then you press checkout. So I think that mimicking those flows and taking lessons from those who have come before, there's a great book, Thanks for Being Late, where it's about being second or third to the party, similar to like a Apple-esque move. A lot of the true people with these innovative ideas don't necessarily catch on. So it's this balance in this space of how do we come up with innovative ideas that are relevant or improve upon ideas that truly do need improvement, like fix what is actually broken and innovate to what is actually needed, as opposed to there's this classic saying that it's your old saying within the space or so, around we're a solution looking for a problem. And I like that and I hate it at the same time, because a solution looking for a problem doesn't necessarily mean that there's a purpose or intent behind things, but what it does spawn is this creativity component and this like, wow, how could we apply something from the past to where we are currently? So I think that's some kind of meandering around, but I think that that's starting to get to the point there, is that like consumption behavior is the same. The consumer is still going to have the same mindset. People are very vocal here. They get to sit behind a username. They get to sit behind a profile picture. So I personally love that, because I think those who are speaking loudly and giving the feedback, it's just like a review on a website or an Amazon product. You listen in the Discord, you pick out keywords, people tell you exactly what they want. And they may say it in an angry fashion. So it's, are you okay with sitting there and listening to how they're communicating that to you? But taking those nuggets and expanding upon them and taking it seriously, I think is something that, we as a brand and others within the space do take seriously, to make sure that we are aligning with consumer expectations, to make sure that we are meeting people where they are, where they're shopping and at that present moment, with a tool that's relevant to accomplish their current mission, their current goal. So I don't know, a lot of crossovers. I think there's a lot more similarities than there are differences between Web 2 and Web 3.
It seems to me like you've spent a lot more time or than most in the space looking at the data of customers and how they interact with the app. So, and from what I got from the first part of the reply was that it's a very diverse customer base. Like you've got all spectrums represented. That be a correct? It's not a niche category in sense of demographics. Like it is a niche, of course, but a very small niche at that, being it's Cardano NFTs, but it's still a wide spectrum of interested people. Is that a correct?
I'd say mostly correct. I mean, I view it as like in the ad world, if I were compartmentalizing data to create, subsets of users to advertise against, I'm not necessarily looking to like carve out and say, oh, these folks are just niche. I'm looking at the data set as a whole and trying to find either consistency or anomalies within that to start to define what the consumer base might look like. So it's what I think that what we see within that is like, okay, we still have, okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Where did I go with that? I had a whole thing figured out in my head.
Yeah, anomalies for in a consumer base.
Oh, yeah.
Sounding
Yeah, so like as we start to parse the data, we start to identify those who are, say, susceptible or not susceptible to pricing changes or elasticity. You start to see those who are extraordinarily interested in the project versus those who are extraordinarily interested in a quick flip. And that is a huge difference, because I think that those are serious purchase considerations and those are your consumers. It's more of a functional and kind of cash tangible mindset, as opposed to historically where you're buying based off of some other consideration. It's the what's in it for me is permeates all categories of any consumer mindset ever. So there is a wide variety of types of people who are here for various different reasons, but there's also some galvanizing components that like make them all very similar. They're interested in technology. They understand how to use technology. They're interested in art. They're interested in learning. I mean, these people are usually vocal. They're quite often, I'd say, like, if you're looking at data off of a Web2 site versus a Web3 environment, it's a savvier consumer. It's someone who's well researched and understands, even at a baseline, if they aren't fully versed in how everything works, they understand more than what 99% of others as to how to utilize a blockchain, how to interact with the blockchain, what something does and means. Like, that's pretty cool. You've got an extraordinarily researched and dedicated audience. Even your least researched here knows a lot about the space, which is pretty neat. So yeah, I think parsing that up is interesting, but you can see all of that, like how people are interacting and how they're talking about things.
From that characterization, it sounds like you've got a more picky or more informed customer base. Cash, how have you dealt with that over the year? Because I know you've been the face of Anvil on Twitter and other places.
Yeah.
How have you?
That's a good question, and it's gonna have a long answer probably, but being completely honest, like PB touched on a lot of it, but every client's completely different, right? We get clients from, I mean, I'm not going to name any of them, like I'm not going to call them out, but we've had clients that range from like super, like they're just, everything is nitpicky. Like it has to be done on their accord every single time, right when they're ready, right? No problem. We know how to deal with those types of clients just fine. We've also had the clients that are so loose that they forget that they paid us, and then 3 months go by and they don't ever poke us, and now we just have a 1,500 ADA balance sitting in our account with nothing to deliver and no client anymore. So it's kind of a crazy spectrum, right? Like we get people from, and then fill that in, right? So we have all kinds of customers, and one of my favorite things to do is customer service, right? That's why I'm predominantly the more forward focused person, because I like dealing with adversity, right? It's something that I enjoy. It's something that I dealt with a lot in my real life, like before this. I worked in transportation. I worked on trains. I was a mechanical engineer and a project manager. I would work on site by myself with 300 clients, right? Like 300 employees of my clients, and I would be the only person. So you learn how to navigate these sticky situations, right? You learn how, when a deadline was 3 weeks and you need to make it 5, you learn how to do that type of stuff. So, I'm grateful for all the experiences, but customer management, I mean, it's just a different space completely. Like, you can bring a lot of the same things that you learned in like we always say Web 2, but it's just normal life, right? Like, you can bring a lot of those experiences from normal life and apply them to this. The key is always to take what you know and then or what somebody else has done right. You can use other people's ideas. There's no crime in using other people's ideas for inspiration, right? For inspiration. But use them as inspiration. Take them, make your own adaptations, put your own twist on it, and then release it. That's how I treat client management, right? I've seen what works. I've seen what definitely doesn't work. I've done some of the stuff that doesn't work. And, after a year of doing it now, I feel like, I can deal with anybody. And it's not like a knock against the customers, right? But like I said, you have to be able to cover all the sides of the spectrum if you want to be a service provider that's actually hands-on, right? If you want to take the hands-off approach, then you don't really need to have that great of, customer interaction skills, but you should be able to speak on your product in a forward-facing environment, right? Twitter, these types of things, they're really critical for getting exposure. And I mean, you guys know who we are, and we don't really ever do any of that broadcasting, right? We showcase what we've created. We showcase what we're doing in the future. We don't play into these day-to-day narratives. We're laser focused at Anvil, right? Like, we don't care what other people are doing. If people ask us, like SIP68 is a perfect example, right? We've been in the calls with you guys plenty of times talking about SIP68, all these different things around it, right? It's almost 8 months old now, 6 to 8 months old. We just implemented it 3 weeks ago, right? But we took the time to digest it. We've been in these meetings. We've learned about it. And we're not using it as a buzzword, right? We're using it because our clients want it. So when your clients want something, it doesn't matter what you want. You have to just take your mind out of it and put yourself in the shoes of the client. And I think that that's one of the things that I do best is I put myself in the other person's shoes, because I've been at the bottom. I've had the same experience as most of these projects, right? I've navigated this space for it feels like a lifetime now. So I use a lot of my day-to-day experiences to help clients too, right? When people come to us, they get more than just a product, right? They get the people too. And we're a team that really treats our product like a lot like how Chick-fil-A does. Like, the customer's always right and they come first. So that's, as long as you have that approach, I think you'll be fine, right? Customer first.
Who is your customer? In your case, is it the end minter, or is it the one contracting you for your services, or is it both?
You're going to like this. I have this thing that I like to say. It's like a triangle, right? You have a triangle, and for the triangle to be perfect, every point of the triangle has to be happy, right? So you have the customer is the top of the point, right? It doesn't matter if the customer's not happy, the service provider and the project, the client, our client, are not going to be happy, right? So the key is to make the customer happy first, the end customer, right? The person using our product, the person pressing the button that says mint or stake or buy or sell. Those are the people who we target first. We wanted to make sure when we started this business that we had a product that was forward facing for the client. So like PB explained, very easy to use, simplified, and almost you kind of get that recollection of like a Web 2 checkout, right? Shopping experience through PayPal or whatever. So that's pretty much like the first step of it. Once you get down, you really got to make sure, like, the client, we have you guys have been a client, right? So we have a Discord server where every single client has their own channel, right? They have their own dedicated project manager. We want to make sure that that project has continuous follow-ups, whether we're done their project or not, right? We always reach back out. We're always trying to, you know, continue the narrative or continue with progress on the current project. So, you know, if you're missing any point of that triangle, right, you're not going to be happy. So my goal is to make everybody happy. How does everybody win? And we have a really good product and everybody's happy. That's the goal always, right? So a lot of the time, you know, you have to temper client expectations, and it's a tough thing to do, right? Your idea isn't really all that it's cracked up to be, and you're making it overly complicated, right? Your end users aren't going to be able to digest that. I've had to have those really hard conversations with people to bring them back down to earth, right? And, you know, sticker shock is a real thing when people have these crazy dreams in their head, which that's the beauty of the space, right? You're supposed to dream. You're supposed to take it to the next level. It's endless boundaries. So it's tough to bring people back to earth after hearing their idea that they've thought so long and hard about. But there's a process to it. You have to be delicate. And then at the end of the day, you end up with this product that fits for everybody, right? And a lot of the times we make that perfect triangle and the clients are happy. We don't get a lot of client feedback, like negative client feedback. We get a lot of client feedback on Twitter and we listen to all of it and we actually apply it, right? So we welcome that kind of stuff and we love when people give us feedback. But honestly, there's really not been like one time where it's like everybody was like, I hate this. This has been the worst thing ever. And we've had some bad days. So it's all about how you adapt, how you overcome. And this space is magical, man. I'm telling you, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in my life.
How do the customers usually approach you when they have an idea of, do they use your homepage or do they Discord you, or what do you do?
So it's really interesting because there's a lot of different ways that people reach out to us. You know, obviously, like we've talked about, people know who I am, right? So sometimes they just message me directly. Hey, I want to learn more about Anvil. I want you to do whatever. Sometimes I send them to the Twitter account to process, because that's our normal flow would be, you know, client messages Twitter. Then we process them, invite them to the Discord, make them the channel, have an onboarding meeting where we talk about their project needs. So that would be the traditional flow. We also have a lot of clients reach out to us on email. And then, like I said, we have clients who just personally reach out. Like, people know me, they're comfortable to talk to me, and I welcome that, right? Like, I love when people reach out to me. I get them set up. We have a little extracurricular talk. Maybe they spitball some of their ideas, and then they get invited to the Discord server. But in general, it's usually client approaches us, not the other way. I really don't like to target people who are, because most of the time when you're targeting somebody to like get them as a customer, acquire them, it's usually in a negative connotation. Like, hey, I know you guys just messed up your mint. We're here, right? We can save you. Like, I'm never going to post that on Twitter, right? It's just a bad look. And I don't like to capitalize on other people's downfalls. So sometimes I do reach out. We do reach out from time to time. Hey, we saw that you guys are minting. Do you have a provider yet? And if they say yes, then we leave it at that. If they say no, then, hey, would you like to have a meeting? But in general, I would say 90% of our leads come through email or Twitter.
So your projects, are they typically custom made products, or do you create your own products?
It's a good question as well. So we actually do both. So we have a CMS that's built around making minting pages, making staking pages, and having a really ease of transition from the client's ask to what we deliver. And that's what I was talking about adapting their mindset to fit to the product that we have a little bit. So it's a lot easier for us to kind of say, hey, you know, here's the custom approach. It's going to be this much, right? And usually I mean, development costs are around $300 an hour, right? Like, it's not something that we promote. We don't push people towards custom stuff because it's way more expensive. and it pushes back all the things that we want to do as a company, right? Of course, we still do custom stuff, but we haven't done as much lately as we'd like because we're focusing on our SDK. So our SDK will hopefully replace us one day, and then people can use that to have Anvil at their fingertips all the time. And I actually have the CMS if we want to take a peek at it. Don't think I can share my screen.
Maybe Peter needs to give you permission if you can't, but just to distill this first part of the call, or it's maybe more than first half of the call, it seems like the same basic principles and as in any kind of endeavor apply to this space, because maybe people feel like it's everything is new and alien, and I'll have to spend months, if not years, learning the space and getting up to speed to everything. But at the end of the day, it seems like from what you're describing, the same general principles, like in any kind of, especially online business, apply, but not only online, as you said, real life in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it is and it isn't, right? Like the same base principles apply, but how you actually implement them and the way that you know, like I keep saying the word forward face, like the way that the customer views you are a little bit different. And some of the more traditional methods don't necessarily work, right? Like there's a lot of marketing tactics that don't work in Web3, right? And there's a lot of things that do work that have never existed before. So, or they're just an adaptation of another idea and somebody put this Web3 twist on it, right? So there's a lot of overlap, but you know, if you draw like a Venn diagram of it, it's going to have, you know, you're going to have a lot of Web2 stuff that doesn't translate over. Like people can't just pick up and say, hey, I want to start Web3. You got to get your feet wet first. You got to understand the culture, the community. There's a lot of layers to it, man. Like you said, it's almost like an internet culture, which luckily for me, I grew up playing video games literally since I was, you know, born basically. So I've played World of Warcraft. I've been a guild leader. Like those things just naturally happen for me somehow. But, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of that is relevant. It's crazy to say out loud, but being a World of Warcraft guild manager is very relevant experience in Web3. Like you'd be surprised. You're corralling the same group of people essentially for now. Obviously with mass adoption, we're leaving a big gap for, you know, adhering to the Web2 people. But for right now, you're adhering to a bunch of video game degens. You're appealing to gamblers, right? You're a lot of people that are interested in NFTs. You can build a profile around them, right? Like I know because I'm one of them. So at the end of the day, man, like you have to take the Web2 stuff that works and you got to put your own twist on it and release it in a Web3 way. That's the way that I see it. I think the perfect example of a person who does that would be like Frank, right? Who runs DGods and all those. He's very good at saying things that could adhere to both groups of people. And that's really when you make a product, you got to think about everybody and you can't just make it for right now, right? Because then you're going to miss out on all the future people who come in and look to join the space, but don't have this degenerate mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a huge gap and there's a lot of layers to it.
So cool. Yeah, I think it'd be cool to see a little bit of your CMS, but I wanted to ask before, like, can you tell us a little bit about how your team is, how your organization works? Like, you, and how, like, do you have a hierarchy in your management structure, et cetera? And what does that look like? That's these things I'm interested in, so it might just be for me, but.
I mean, being completely honest, like there's a lot of value in what I'm about to say. I think, you know, it's something that there's no rule book, right? There's no handbook. You can't just like, hey, I want to make a fucking crypto company where, oh, let me read this guide, right? You have to go through all the paces yourself. We literally started this company a year ago we weren't incorporated until 6 months ago. That's how long like the basic processes take. So, you know, we're a registered Delaware C Corp, Anvil Development Agency Inc. We didn't want to have a Cardano related name at all, but when you take us down to an anagram, we're ADA, so it's Anvil Development Agency. That was PB's idea, genius. But that's like basically what we did is we created this legal structure, right? We hired an attorney to do it. We went through all the paces, and there's really no shortcuts, right? As much as you wish there was, making an LLC, you know, all these things. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble. My best advice that I can give is hire an attorney to walk you through the whole process. And we did that, and he did it very well. They're hard to find, crypto attorneys, but at the end of the day, you're making, for us, we're a SaaS-based business, right? We're not a crypto business. We just take payment in crypto. So that's how we're legally structured. And then past that, we have a board, right? I'm the CEO, but we all are equal board members, right? There's 5 of us. So all the decisions get made by a team of 5. And that's, I think, it's a pretty big deal, right? Because there's a lot of people who are just winging it right now. And we have a very tight-knit legal structure. And, you know, we're expanding on that as we proceed into the future, right? For example, right, if we wanted to release a marketplace, like an actual marketplace, we can't do it under our C Corp, right? We have to make a new entity to go and put this marketplace under. So there's a lot of like legal considerations that we've paid thousands of dollars to have consulting and advice on, that a lot of people, they just don't even bother with that part of it. And, you know, that's what shows, I think, that we're here for the long term, right? We want to have longevity in our legal structure. So essentially, like I said, we have a board of 5, and then all the employees under that are just basically under their department. So as we grow and develop, right, then you'll start to see the branches develop and grow. We're actually in the process of, I have 2 interviews after this. We're looking for project managers. We're also just looking for people who show that extra level of motivation, right? Who are hungry, who want to be here every day and show out for Cardano, because at the end of the day, that's what we care about more than anything. And if we're successful in how we care about Cardano, I think it'll translate over well. Bye, PB.
See you, man.
I'll just say bye real quick. Thank you guys. This was such a great conversation today so far. I'll be sure to catch up on the end of it. And if any of you have any questions regarding what I was talking about, feel free to ping me in the guild server. See ya.
Awesome.
See you, buddy.
See you, PB. Thank you.
See you.
Awesome.
I hope I answered it. I know I go off on tangents, but
Yeah, no, that was awesome. The yeah, I know that as far as that's how legally your structure is designed. I know that some other groups and whatnot think of their style of management as like in terms of like holocratic circles and whatnot. So you have, how does so you have department heads. I'm sure David is one of them. So he's responsible for all of his concerns and actions. So how does project management fit into a organization structure where critical technical decisions have to be addressed by the person and get the attention of the person who has that information? It might just be one person in the whole company, especially right now at an early stage.
yeah, and it's been challenging, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. There's been times where, you know, there's an error in the mint, right? And David goes to fix it, right? And, you know, that's where things get complicated, right? Because in a developer world, you just fix, right? You don't worry about what any outside noise. It's just fix it as fast as you can, right? And me, I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm saying, all right, you know, the client's asking me a million questions a second. What do I tell him? When are you going to be ready? When are you going to be done? So it's been hard as hell to navigate, and we've set boundaries. We've made policies. Honestly, man, when I was a kid, I thought I would be like, you know, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company by the time I was 20 years old and all this. And, you know, everybody kept telling me experience, experience, experience. And I'm like, you don't need experience if you're smart. And I realized really quickly, I'm 33 now. So you need experience to run a company like this. You need to know what to do in these difficult situations, or at least have a reference point for when it gets sticky, right? So in terms of the hierarchy though, it's literally one of the hardest things to do is translate customer PM to dev. Like that is a super hard bridge to make. And right now it's basically me, and I don't know anything about being a developer. So I rely a lot on these guys to bail me out in situations. You'll notice, man, I'm not shy about tag teaming in David if it's a question that I don't understand. Because honestly, I shouldn't need to have that capacity, right? Like people have roles for a reason. You know, you should know stuff outside of your role, but you should stick to your stuff that you're good at. And these guys are great devs, so I rely on them a lot for the answers. But in terms of like hierarchy stuff, basically the goal would be PMs digest the request, they turn it into a dev friendly form, right? So we have templates, we have all kinds of procedures, processes. We use Jira, we have weekly sprints, all that type of stuff. So everything is tracked, everything that well, hopefully, right? Put your tickets in. That's what I tell everybody. But you know, it's a constant fight, but it's a good fight, man. You feel productive when you change something and then it works how you intended it to work. So we've dealt with a lot, and from experience comes a lot of cool, unique things that we've been able to create for our company that I think have value just outside of, you know, what we offer to our clients. Maybe to somebody coming in from the outside looking to get into Cardano and being a service provider, or, you know, a VC literally making an investment. You know, we want to be prepared for those types of things. And you're not going to be prepared unless you have an infrastructure built. And we've built a pretty robust infrastructure. It's still growing every day. So like I keep going back to, man, you have to be able to adapt. If it's not working, fix it, right? That simple.
That's a beautiful answer, man. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's fun, man. Like, just honestly, like there's only one way to cut it, and it's fun. Like it's challenging every single day. I haven't met a day where I wasn't challenged. Seriously. Like, even if it was just a challenge to get the motivation to go to a meeting, right? Like there's always been a challenge every single day. And honestly, man, like there's always a new custom request every day too. Every day we get something like, hey, you know, like we're working on something right now for her monsters that's going to be crazy, right? And it's just like every day a new client, and that's what keeps it exciting. And I have calls every day with clients, right? I still like to do that. So it really, you know, building it as you go, it might sound crazy, but there's no roadmap for this kind of company, right? There's no roadmap for a crypto company, a Web3 company. You kind of just have to take that Web2 IRL, you know, experience and shape it into something new, and always adapt. Like, always adapt.
Yeah, this adaptive, agile, is very. This world is iterating so quickly right now. It's changing so fast. Tons of chaos, tons of information, and most people are overwhelmed. And it's the people, and yeah, we're you guys are on the cutting edge of creating the infrastructure for different types of value to be transferred that we haven't thought of, we haven't been capable of transferring in the past. So super cool to see how what leadership looks like inside that environment. And yeah, appreciate your experience there. We got about 5 minutes left till the top of the hour. I don't know if there's any final questions, or you want to give us a quick run of your CMS?
Yes, let's do that. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So essentially, right, you would log in, like we would create a login for the user. That would be up here. Basically it's as simple as, sorry, I clicked something that I wasn't supposed to. But basically this is our CMS, right? This is the Anvil CMS. It's not forward facing yet. We haven't released it to the public. It's only being used internally, right? So one of the things that we talked about was making sure that what we released was good enough for the end user. And this is one of those cases where, you know, we have to continually use this internally and adapt it for it to be a good forward facing product. So essentially what I did is I made a new site. We'll call it NFT Guild, right? And then we're going to put in the domain, we'll make it whatever we want, right? You know, you have your two template choices, light or dark. We're going to go with dark because we're not criminals. Let's go into the media library, right? So obviously we have multiple different tabs that you can navigate through. So first would be, you know, loading your icon. You know, we have an open graph image. We also have this beautiful tool right here, right? So create your collection. So the user can come in and actually create their whole collection, policy, ID, royalty, address payouts. You can add multiple address payouts, everything, right? So once you're done with that, you hit submit, your collection is actually created on the chain. And we'll give you a reference token that you can check and validate. And then you can actually use that to get verified through JPEG Store, all the other places that you would, right? So that spits out your policy. Next thing you want to do, you know, you obviously want to have a cool background, right? Like it's your minting site. You want to show out, right? So we'll go, you can drag and drop. So we'll go with this. I want to put my background in there. You know, also we're going to have a mint box, right? So let's go ahead and throw a treasure chest on there for the mint box, right? So I'll upload these two images and now they're in the queue, right? So for this right here, we're going to right click, copy URL. And then we basically, you don't need to do that, by the way. So first thing you would do is you would go create your page, right? So NFT Guild, and then your slug. So if you ever need to delete it later, that's the safe word, if you will. And by the way, I'm not a developer at all. I have literally zero experience as in CSS. This is me just learning. It took me a couple hours to learn how to use this. So, you know, you hit the plugin, right? We're going to add the crypto plugin right here, save. And then now you'll start to see the prompts on your page for minting, for staking, for claiming. So we're going to go with mint, right? So right here, you know, we could put NFT Guild and we'll put special Anvil meeting. I don't know, something, and ignore my caps and all that nonsense. But essentially, right, that's your mint block right here, right? So what I can do is I can come into here, right? I can add content to it. I can add layout to it, layout styles, right? And then I can come in here. Sorry, I'm not in the mint block right now, but I can come in here and I can change everything, right? So we'll go to the main page. We know we wanted to put our background, so I copy paste my background here, right? Obviously we need to get rid of all this nonsense, but this is what I'm talking about with the little fixes that we have coming. We're really working to, sorry, this is not looking right. And then you can see like a preview, right? So obviously I didn't change the color of the text, but you go in here, you see your preview, right? You make changes, right? So back in this tab, you can come across your theme, right? So you can change all the colors of everything on the page. You can change the mint box color, the text color. You can even change the font down here, right? So let's just say, you know, we want to go with a cool font. We come in, sorry, wrong one. We come in here. We just take the first font that we see and then we plug it in, right? Heading, body, save. And then you can just refresh this page, right? And it'll show your newly applied text. So everything directly translates. It's all live. You just hit refresh. And basically what you just do is you just keep coming through, right? So we'll take this. You just keep building your page out. And then eventually what you're left with is a minting box, right? So let me see, add after, and you know, you can add headings, you can add footers, you can add, we're adding a lot of features, right? You can even add a video if you want to, honestly. Sound, you can add an MP3 file. So basically right here, right, we would need to load a test collection. That's why it's not populating. I don't have one for you guys today, but you would
You can
add your
use,
test collection.
You can use it. Project 7 and collection 12 is the or collection
All right.
test collection.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the
It's in settings.
settings.
They added a new
Yeah. So you have to override. But what was it again?
7 for the project ID and 12 for the collection.
And then I could add, you know, you get all these fields, right? So you can add like an actual background to the box. What am I missing here, David?
What you wanna do?
Just add a mint box.
I
But essentially,
think
you guys
you just need to save or
oh, right, save, and then
And
it'll
public, yeah.
populate. So here you can see, obviously we need to change some of the font colors and things like that, but you know, you can do this all on your own pace, right? You don't have to rely on us. And guess what? It's inherently going to be cheaper too. Like when you use this, you're saving us time and you're going to benefit from that, right? So basically you just built your whole mint. You didn't need Anvil. You didn't need anybody, right? All you needed was the CMS. So this is the future of Anvil products, right? This is where we're headed. You know, when you refresh, you'll see the mint box populate. And you know, that's basically it, right? You can do a lot of really cool tricks if you want to. You know, there's definitely going to be people that take it to the next level. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, and we're trying to simplify it as much as we can, right? So everything that I showed you already will probably get easier. So it's a good start for us. We're happy with what we have, and we're using this actively to build the minting pages, like I said. So it's definitely getting better and better over time. But that's basically it. You know, obviously, I think we showed you guys that, but you know, staking, right? We're working on that. And then marketplace. Eventually you'll be able to come in here and anybody, right, can come in, create their own custom marketplace, right? Let's just say, you know, Peter wants to sell clays. Cool. Yeah, like you guys want to support NFT Guild? Here's the NFT Guild marketplace, right? This is our favorite collections from all the people we've ever interviewed. If you guys buy it on this site, you're going to give a kickback to the NFT Guild, right? A 1%. And then the NFT Guild now benefits from having their own marketplace, right? And you can do whatever you want with it. You can change the fees, the royalties, whatever. You own it. And that's what I think is really cool. When you look at real life, it's a lot of resellers, right? Like, you know, people are taking products that they're buying in bulk off of whatever, and then they open an Amazon storefront, right? What's the difference here? There's not much of a difference. So this is the future of Anvil, the future of what we think the space is going to look like, and our goal towards becoming like a Shopify-like experience for Cardano.
Seems like a very slick interface, man. Reminds me
These
of,
guys are good, man. I
yeah.
can't deny that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming today, Zach and David. Awesome to have you here to wrap this up.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts from Anna Marie, Rars, or Sent, or any of these bots?
I would have one final question for the Anvil team. Maybe you can tell us how the team was formed, and if you ever met before in real life. You mentioned it was Benjamin's Club before, but what was before Benjamin's Club? And if you've never met before, how was trust gained between all of you?
You shouldn't ask that at the end of the call. I could go for 10 minutes on that one alone. No, I'll be brief, right? But basically, essentially, I started my NFT career in Cardano City, believe it or not. I became a moderator there, and it was a total open public forum, basically. It was almost like becoming a moderator at Reddit. And I essentially corralled the troops. I kept everybody under like, hey, don't FUD the project. Like things are going to happen. You know, I learned all these like tactics, and then that's where I met Benjamin, right? That's not his real name, but that's his internet persona. So we're cool with that. We don't care, right? Me and him became friends, and then we created Benjamin's Club together. you know, we both reached out on our own. We found artists, we found all the keys, right? And we connected everything. The whole time he's telling me about his 2 cool friends that he had in real life who were developers. Oh, blah, blah, blah. They're so smart. And I'm like, look, man, bring them. Like, what are they waiting for? And 3 or 4 months later, David and Jeremy show up. And that's where, like you said, it was really hard, right? One of the hardest things to do is trust people you don't know. And it takes a long time. It really does. I think it took our team 6 months to learn how to trust each other. So we literally started not knowing each other at all. Then PB joined our team because we needed extra help, right? And he had shown that he had initiative and all those things. So we brought him in early, right? We bring in people that we think can have a positive impact and help us and that we can trust long term. Obviously, doesn't always work like that, but it took a lot to get us to trust each other. You know, there's a lot of money changing hands all the time. It's very risky to do things without meeting people, but we have all met before, except for Benji, right? But these guys know Benji in real life. So that's their connection. And then we all 4 of us met at CNFTCon. So it was really cool. You know, obviously we're all really good friends. You know, we play extracurricular activities together. You know, we do stuff, we talk, literally our whole lives are each other, right? So you got to get to know each other, you got to get along, and you got to trust each other. Without trust, there's no business. So it's a paramount thing. And, you know, we've really learned how each other work, which is also another thing that's complicated in that process. But building trust, that was a hard thing to do. And now that we're all 5 officially board members of the C Corp, we don't need to have that trust. We're all on the same team, whether we like it or not. And it's shown, right? Our team has been so much stronger since that day. And I'm just glad at where we're at. And I can't wait to add more people, right? My goal has always been to bring more people into the space and help people kind of achieve the same success that I have. So we continue to push for that. And that's why I'm looking to hiring outside of Web3 if I have to. I want to bring more people in. I want to show people that you can be, if you have that professional experience, it will translate. Give me a couple weeks to teach you about crypto and NFTs and you'll be an all-star. Like, I want those types of people. And then inherently they're just easier to trust because somebody's ethic can kind of correlate to trust, right? To an extent, of course. But that's my short form answer, believe it or not.
Thank you. Great
Yeah.
answer.
That was a good question.
Yeah, we've been talking a bit about the differences between this space and all other spaces, and what you said kind of echoes our experience. This is one of those things that stand out. It's easier maybe to work with people you haven't met or don't know. That has been our experience as well since joining, and I think it has to do with the common vision of the people who have it. Of course, not all people have it, but I think we can tell each other apart quite easily.
Yeah.
Of those who want to build. Yeah. So
No, I agree. Definitely agree. And, you know, it's not only that, but the clients too, right? They're also, a lot of them are anonymous, right? So that's a hard thing to navigate in itself. You know, we do a physical contract for every single project, right? So everybody who's ever worked with Anvil has signed a contract, whether they sign it from Johnny Sunshine from Wisconsin. I don't know who they are, but I have that reference point, right? Because there can only be so much trust in that regard. So like I said, there's a lot of layers. It's hard to navigate. Sometimes it honestly is easier to never have met the person in real life. I think it changes the dynamic of the relationship completely, right?
Mhm.
So it's a super interesting topic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
well,
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, let's shut down the recording and have a good, awesome rest of the day. Thank you for coming, Ada, Anvil, and team. And until the next one, peace.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.